Get my 6. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Homesteading Off the Grid. Try not to block your view back there. The veil's getting very thin. So it's been a few days. I've been enjoying taking a couple of days off and pursuing other interests. This has been a goal of mine for some time, and I have finally just taken action in doing it. Got to give a lot of thanks to my buddy Travis Stagel over at Fighting Past 40, who kind of allowed me to remember about perspective, what's important, what isn't, and well, whatever. Okay, so anyway, I've been gone for a couple of days. I'm back. Did you miss me? There's a ton of gnats here, a ton of gnats, so it might be a little bit harder to discern between what is a gnat and what might be from the other side of the veil. Speaking of which, got a couple of really good stories for you today, sent in from viewers like you, potentially you, if you're one of the people that sent them in. Bad news, good news, better news, and great news. All right, the bad news is we've already sold out of all of the paperback copies of the autographed paperback copies via Etsy for October Nights Part 2, 31 more tales for the Halloween season. The good news is they're arriving earlier. They weren't supposed to be here until this coming Saturday, which as of this recording, 4 days from now at the earliest, but now they're coming on Thursday. So we're going to be able to actually send them out Friday and Saturday. Okay, so that's good news. Better news is that we did receive the 10 hardback copies already. I didn't even list these because I thought these were going to take longer to send because there's more involved. This is the first time I've ever had any of my books issued in hardback. But we only have 10 copies of these, and I think one sold already, like as soon as I listed it on Etsy. October Nights 2, 31 more tales for the Halloween season. You can get this on our Etsy store. And here's the best news, okay? These are pricey. They're like $10. They're like $29.99. Same prices on Amazon. But our shipping is a little higher because we don't ship in bulk like Amazon. But here's the deal. If you get... Now, you guys at first are going to be like, what's so great about that? What are those little things? If you get one of these hardback copies, not only will they go out probably tomorrow or the next day because we already have them, you get a free pair of Jack and Jill corns. Yeah, man, check it out. Get a Jack corn and a Jill corn. What? What's a Jack and Jill corn, you might be asking? Well, if it weren't for the Jack and Jill corns and like literally thousands of their peers, we wouldn't be celebrating Halloween at all, brah. It would have ended with that black Bible-beating tyrant, Pastor Black, shortly after the settlement of Jamestown when he tried to end, Halloween here in the Blue Ridge Mountains before it could spread across the land as this great nation grew. You're like, what are you talking about, Crazy Lake? You fixing to find out. That's what I'm talking about. You're going to find out on October 1 when I read you the first story for October, even though the first story in the book is on September 30, the prequel. But October 1, there's a story called You Can't Stop Halloween. That's where you're introduced to the Jack and Jill corns. And these are available, by the way, in our Etsy store. But if you get the hard copy, the hardback, you're going to get a free pair when I ship you the autographed hardback. What? How do you tell them apart? Well, look, here's the story behind the Jack and Jill corn. As the author, of course, it started out with just a Jack corn. But he seemed lonely, so I took one of his IQ points and used it to create a partner for him, the Jill corn. So now he's not lonely. And if you get them on our Etsy store individually, they come in these really neat little cosmetic cases. If you get it with the book, I'm just going to put it in a Ziploc and send it to you because this won't fit. They'll break it. But, yeah, how do you tell them apart? I just explained it. The Jill corns are smarter. Duh. Okay, so there's that. I know you're here for the stories. Let me get to it. I'm putting this back in here, though it rained earlier. We needed the rain. So I'm put this back in this flat rate padded shipping envelope that they go out in. Keep it dry. All right, I got notes on the back of these really cool bookmarks you get when you buy our books from Etsy. All right, story time. Let's get to the first one. I'll jibber jabber here some more later. This is what I wanted to point out. I have to make notes because I just forget it all. If you can't afford to buy the books, come here in October because I will read on this channel every story in those books. I would love it if everybody bought a book, but I know that not everybody can afford it, okay? And speaking of which, if you want to contribute to the channel in a small amount, if you're able to, keep getting my 6. You can give a super chat. If you go just below the video, there's like a heart sign with a dollar sign because we all love money, right? I promise you 100% of anything you give after YouTube takes their cut and after the IRS takes their cut and after the state of Virginia taxation department takes their cut, which is all pretty big, whatever's left, 100% of that goes to me and my family. And no, I will never feel guilty about that ever. If you feel I should be ashamed of myself for that, then you, friend, may go forth and consume a satchel full of Richards. Now, I say that because somebody tried to guilt shame me this summer after I'd recently activated the super chat and mentioned it. Somebody who supposedly was a supporter for a couple of years just told me I should be ashamed of myself for asking for money. Listen, I will support my family through legal means the way that I choose to do so, which is by writing, social media, of which super chat is just a little added bonus in the social media area. I will never judge you for deciding to support your family through the legal means, I'm sure of which you've chosen to support yours. Okay? I'm going to get to the story, but I get off on these tangents. Some people love them, some people hate them, which brings me up to another viewer concern. A lot of people watch these videos, and one of the most common comments left is, I wish my dislike button worked. Have you tried turning it off and then turning it back on? I mean, this is like technology 101, brah. Turn it off, turn it back on. Okay. But no, here's the point I was going to make with this tangent that, people are like, man, I wish this dislike button worked. I had a conversation the other day with my wife and my son about the difference between jealousy and envy, okay? Because there's a difference, and my wife thinks semantics doesn't matter, and for somebody who does, English is not her first language, it's like her 5th language. She speaks all these different languages. But for my son, I want him to understand the difference. My wife was erroneously using the term jealous when she should have used the term envy. Here's the difference. When you are envious of somebody, maybe because of the lifestyle they live, or maybe because of something they have, it could be, maybe they just won the lottery, one of your best friends, and you're envious, or they've worked really hard and they have a really comfortable lifestyle as a result of the fruits of their efforts, of their labors. Envy is when you kind of desire to kind of have the same thing, but there's not really any malice behind that. Whereas with jealousy, there is. If you're jealous of what somebody has, or if you're jealous of the lifestyle somebody lives, it's because in your mind, you don't feel they're deserving to have what it is that they have, or that they deserve to live the way they're living. And I bring this up now because I think back of that viewer that left that comment about how I should feel ashamed of myself for asking for money by way of super chats. And I think back on the times when my family and I were down and out in the Philippines and we didn't have money for food. I was terrified my son was going to get dengue fever because if he did, he would die because I wouldn't have the money to treat him or buy the medical treatment. It's not like in the U.S. where, whatever. So for you to think I don't deserve to have the lifestyle that I've worked very hard to earn the right to have now, while I saw friends and I saw family members drop by the wayside because they said I was just too lazy to work, writing these haunted fairy tales, laughing at me as if it was a joke that I was trying to do what I've done to get established in this field. You may very much go forth and consume a satchel full of Richards, every last one of you. And yes, that dislike button right now, have you tried turning it off and then turning it back on again? I'll give you a second. Still not working? Damn, what the hell? All right, let's get on to the first story. This is a creepy story. Came to us from a guy named Mario. Thank you, Mario. Thank you, Mario, for No editing being required with this story. Okay? This one's called the Fedora Man Incident. This is a creepy story. Listen to this. Pardon me. There's something up here, like this time of year. I think it's the thistle. It's getting ready to go to seed. It always makes my nose run. Okay. Hello, Kevin. My name is Mario, and I have been a subscriber to your channel for quite some time. I love your content. Thank you, Mario. We need more people like you in social media, the gutter of the internet. I wanted to share this experience with you and your viewers. By all means, you have my permission to use my name. Good thing, because I done did. I was stationed in Velsic, Germany back in the late 90s. Mario, thank you for your service. I decided to take 30 days leave in Philadelphia where my mother resides. One day while on leave, my mother, stepfather, and I decided to take a trip to Atlantic City to play some casino games, enjoy some food, and walk the boardwalk. Before we headed to New Jersey, my stepfather needed to stop and get gas at a Sunoco station. The gas station had a convenience store with the usual accommodations. We all decided to go into the convenience store to grab some drinks, snacks, and play the lottery. The following account was experienced by all three of us. As I entered the store, I immediately noticed a tall man standing at the back corner of the store staring at me. From my perspective, he was about 10 feet tall, and he had a hat that was reminiscent of a fedora, which was tilted down over his eyes. This figure was wearing what looked like a black trench coat. I began to notice that I could not move. My gaze was transfixed onto this figure. I then became aware that no one was moving in the store via my peripheral vision. As I stood there looking at this figure, it smirked at me and extended its arm out, palm facing up. All of a sudden, a flame shoots out of his hand, upwards, toward the ceiling. The flame was spreading onto the ceiling, yet the ceiling was not catching fire. After witnessing this, I was able to move. I walked over to the checkout line and asked my mother if she saw what I witnessed. She said she did not, and we ended up leaving the store to go to Atlantic City. As I left the store, I still saw the figure in the same spot, staring at me with that smirk. Right after leaving the station, I asked my stepfather and mother if they saw the above-mentioned figure in the store. My stepfather immediately replied that he did see this figure. He stated that this figure had the bluest eyes he ever saw. My mother mentioned she had seen the figure in the store, but not where I'd seen it. When she saw it, it had been standing in the line in front of her. She stated that it turned around and looked at her without saying a word. She described it as wearing a fedora-style hat with black clothes, but she said it was wearing dark glasses. She also stated that it became very quiet in the store and she could not move, like she was hypnotized. We were so amazed we shared this experience that we decided to head back to the store to see if we could confront this figure. We were on the road only a few minutes before turning back. We looked in the store and even the immediate outside area to no avail. My mother and I still talk about this incident from time to time. Before sharing this experience with you and your viewers, I did call my mother to get as much detail from her side of the story. Unfortunately, my stepfather is no longer with us, so I can only account for what he stated above. I appreciate you reading and sharing. Mario, I appreciate you submitting your story for me to read and share. Folks, if you have a story of a strange event such as this, I mean, this totally is in the supernatural realm. If you've got a story about anything paranormal, cryptozoological, cryptids, Bigfoot, Sasquatch, and whatnot, UFO, alien abduction, email them to us. The email address is crazylake@mail.com. Just please do us a favor. Try to keep them under 500 words, and please go through and at least proofread it. I know not everybody is a writer, not everybody is an editor, but do your best so that it doesn't take forever on our end to clean them up enough to come out here and tell them the way that they deserve to be told, which is fluidly and with proper emphasis where it needs to be, because these are some awesome stories. Wasn't that an awesome story? All right, this one is a little lengthy. I'm going to read a lot of it word for word, and some of it I'm going to paraphrase. But it's really neat. It's about another haunted homestead down in Louisiana. This one comes to us by way of a lady named Teresa Kroger, like the grocery store, but not affiliated. And she has a YouTube channel. And listen, I'm going to plug a couple here because this is a goal that I came up with. Getting back to that envy/jealousy thing, I've always felt like if you're not willing to kind of help someone else come up, then don't bother. I come from a very toxic background where myself and those close to me were always put down, and that was also part of the culture. It was in Appalachia, and not everybody there is like that. Some of the best people I've ever met in my life were from Appalachia. A lot of people still reside there. They're wonderful people. Most of the people, okay? Most of them are wonderful people, but there is a sense of what is known as crab mentality in the area because it's a repressed area. Crab mentality is common in repressed areas. This is where, okay, I didn't do much with my life. I didn't achieve any goals I had, or I didn't have any goals, and by God, I don't want to see you achieve yours. So it's like a bunch of crabs in a bucket. Half the crabs are trying to get out because they know this isn't going to end good. Well, the others are trying to grab them and pull them back down because their attitude is, if I'm in this mess, you're going to be in it with me. So that's where that phrase crab mentality comes from. It was created by a female Filipina journalist. I forget her name, because the crab mentality is very pervasive. That's a word. Whew, scared me. Very pervasive there. And I lived there for 6 years. I'm speaking from experience, in a lot of the more repressed areas, especially. I never understood that. I just never understood that. If you want to not achieve, if you want to be downtrodden, if you want to, fine. But just leave everybody else the hell alone. Everybody else who's trying to do something with their lives. And so when my family and I took our trip to the Grand Canyon this summer and back, and all kinds of really interesting places in between, I visited the Muhammad Ali Center in Louisville, Kentucky. And I'm a huge Muhammad Ali fan. And I felt so inspired by this man, his legacy, and by visiting that center, I felt like I wanted to do something great. But I'm past my prime athletically, even though I'm now consistently running 30 miles a week, and I have been for months, and this is the first time in over 20 years, and I feel great. I mean, people are commenting. They're like, oh, you've lost so much weight, you're so stressed. No, I'm not. I'm freaking healthy. I'm running 30 miles a week. I don't eat junk food anymore. I eat mostly a plant-based diet, though I do eat lean meats. I'm not putting stuff in my body that is not good for me, that's not healthy for me, and I have not felt this good since I've been in my early 30s. I'm going to be 49 in November. Oh yeah, I'm so sickly, I'm so stressed. Okay, whatever. Go forth and consume a satchel full of Richards. Bigfoot Sasquatch is like, will you get on with these stories? Did you hear that tree knock? That was a very loud, thunderous tree knock. Okay. But my goal was, the thing I wanted to do is I wanted to help some other people who are helping themselves. Now listen, Erie, the new channel administrator who sifts through these emails and sends me what I need to see and make sure I don't see what I don't, told me that a lot of folks have said, hey, I want to start a YouTube channel. Will you help me out? No, and it's nothing personal. It's no offense. I've tried that in the past. Sometimes people think, oh, that'd be a good idea, and they half-ass it, and they don't make it. So I decided to look for people who are already doing it, who just need a little bit of a helping hand up. That's, when I went back and looked up my old buddy Travis Daigle, it was just pure irony or fate that he's actually been doing that himself with his channel Fighting Past 40, and he had made over 200 videos in 5 months. He's doing the work. So I came here and unplugged him. And you guys went there, you've given him the subscribers, and he's getting the watch time and everything else he needs so he can be monetized, and he's seeing his goal come to fruition. And he deserves it, because not just because he's done the work, but because he's a positive guy. He motivates. He doesn't tell people why they can't. He tells everybody why they can. And he's gotten my head screwed back on a little straighter than it's been in years. I met him at basic training. We went through basic training, advanced infantry training, and airborne school together. Then we went our separate ways. I went to Iraq. He went to Afghanistan. He became a Green Beret, served in Afghanistan in that capacity. Great guy. I'm so grateful to be back in touch with him. But my point of this is, Teresa, who sent us this next story, has a YouTube channel as well. And it's called Home. I wrote it on the back of this really cool bookmark that you get if you buy my books on Etsy. Mustard Seed Faith Grows. Okay? Go check her out and support her. She's got tons of videos. She's doing the work. She's doing the work. She didn't say, oh, maybe I can get Crazy Lake to read one of my stories and I'll start a YouTube channel and he'll plug it. Nah. She's not trying to take a shortcut. She's not trying to take a shortcut. She's been doing the work. Support her if you like what she's doing, okay? A lot of her stuff seems to be Christian faith-based. Listen, I'm non-religious. I'm very spiritual. I'm not religious. I believe there's a God. I'm just not smart enough to pick a team. I support everybody who's strong in their faith as long as they don't bash others whose faith is different than theirs. That's where I draw the line. I don't care if you're Christian, Muslim, Jewish, Buddhist, atheist, whatever. As long as you're not bashing others, I'll support you, brah. Check out Teresa's YouTube channel, Mustard Seed Faith Grows, and now let's get to her story, okay? It's about her haunted homestead in Louisiana. Dear Kevin, here's a spooky tale regarding my family in Louisiana whose origins are in Mexico and Germany. A cousin I grew up with on the family property that this tale occurs on sent me some messages. She saw your video I shared where you told the main island story. You remember that one? It's pretty creepy. These were from a conversation with an elderly aunt who also grew up on the same property. The aunt died from COVID, so she is no longer on this side of the veil. The property has been owned by our family for 100 years. We were the first people to live here besides the Native American tribes of the Atacapa group. My great-grandpa, Henrik, also known by the locals as Henry, and my great-grandma, Maria, known as Mary to the locals, began building their farm here after a great hurricane. And she goes on to talk about the history of storms. Several hurricanes were through that area. One tore down, the one back in 1918 tore down their house that was in town. So they made sure to really fortify the one they built out on their homestead, so that when another hurricane came through in 2020, Hurricane Laura, the homestead remained. They got some damage on the roof of a building by a tree that fell, but other than that, everything stayed. So the family learned their lesson. They built the bones more strong, more solid the next time around. And like the song says, the house don't break when the bones are good. The house withstood the hurricane. Now, here's a spooky tale. It involves her grandmother, Mary, and she tells the story through a conversation that one of her other relatives had with the grandma, Mary, about her sister dying. And here's how the story pretty much goes, because it's kind of lengthy. This is 1,000 words, and we're coming up on half an hour here. And I'm grateful for the time you folks give me, and I don't want to take up too much of it. There's a story where Mary was visited by the ghost of her sister before she knew that her sister had actually passed. So Mary and Anise was in the kitchen, and the ghost of her sister, what appeared to be her sister, just opened the door, came in, and then just in an instant vanished. Okay? Well, the next day, she received a telegram in a black envelope. And back in those days, this is going back to 1935, okay, folks? Back in those days, they'd send a telegram. If it came in a black envelope, it meant that somebody had passed away. Well, it was her sister. After she had had this vision of the ghost coming through the door. So sometime after this, she was laying in bed. She was asleep, and she had a vision. Something told her that she needed to go to Mexico and get her sister's son, little boy. She acted on this vision, and she did go to Mexico to retrieve this child to bring him to the United States to live. And while she was in Mexico, they were going through a plague. And there was a common medicine being used to treat this plague for the people that had come down with the plague. However, the people that were taking the medicine were dying as well, as if they'd never been treated at all. And there was a thought, a concern, I would say conspiracy, but there was a belief that the medicine was actually being used by the doctors to kill the people who had come down with the plague so that they wouldn't spread the plague. They just weren't telling this to the people. Who knows? I mean, so while Mary was there, the grandmother in the story, while she was there to retrieve her sister's son, she actually came down with this plague. She was given the medicine, but instead of taking it, she gave some to a cat, and the cat died. So she didn't take the medicine. She eventually got over the plague, got the little boy, brought him back to the United States, and raised him on this haunted homestead there in Louisiana. Now, he grew up, he raised a family. He's got some very successful folks, a couple of girls. They're actually, well, I mean, she told me not to share. There's some information I can't share. There's some musicians in the family, and they're actually being documented in an upcoming streaming series on a very popular streaming network. Okay, but I can't say the names because of security purposes. But that's not where the ghost tales from Teresa down there with Mustard Seed Faith Grows on YouTube, go check her out, ends. There's also been many times when they've heard what sounds like footsteps dragging with a cane, and this is Grandfather Henry. And Teresa mentions in her email and in her story that she knows where that cane has been since she was 4 years old. And I'd say Teresa's probably just a little bit younger than me now. I checked out her YouTube channel. She looked, well, she's probably 10 years younger than me. I'm 48. She's probably 38. So some really creepy stuff going on down there at that homestead in Louisiana as well. Now, I'm going to wrap this up with one final thing, one final customer concern I have, and it goes back to my goal that I mentioned I came up with after visiting that Ali Center, wanting to help folks who are out there helping themselves. Listen, there are no free rides in life, and a lot of people just kind of give up hope because they actually do go out there and they try and they try and they try and they give it their all, and it just doesn't work out for them, and they need a break. And I do not believe in supporting people who don't do everything within their efforts that they can do. Now, I'm not, you sound like a mean old nasty, Republican. Listen, man, God helps those who help themselves, and Crazy Lake helps those who help themselves. Not to compare myself to, a higher power. It's just, come on. I was down and out in the Philippines for all those years. We couldn't eat. Man, whatever. You guys who watch the channel, you know the life we live today. It's through keeping the faith, never giving up, not listening to the assholes who tell us we should be ashamed of ourselves for being successful, the people with crab mentality. It's from never giving up, giving it every effing thing we have. And when people laughed at us and said, you're in your 40s and you're trying to make it on social media, that's for hot chicks in their 20s that know how to twerk. Oh my God, you're an idiot. People watch your channel, they're stupid, they're suckers, they're fools. Listen, I want you to go support another channel. I do not know these people. I think this is pronounced Hollaby Homestead. And I found them. Listen, I'm pursuing my goal, inspired by his greatness, Muhammad Ali, God rest his soul. This is a couple that seems to be probably in their late 30s on YouTube. They're up in Canada. They have been working their asses off for the last 2 years on YouTube trying to get established. They put out 5-ish videos a week, and they've been doing it for 2 years. But they're not where they need to be. They've got 336 subscribers. Let's get them up to 1,000. If you find out about this video, Hollaby Homestead, listen, I don't want to be your friends. I don't want you to contact me and try to be my buddy. That's not going to happen, and it's nothing personal. It's just, I saw you out there, and I'm bringing this up because of all the people whose dislike buttons don't work. They seem to have a problem with the fact that this channel is called Homesteading Off the Grid, but you come here and you hear ghost stories. You find some nutter, me, out in the woods looking for potentially Bigfoot, Sasquatch. Sometimes you see me and my wife and our son at a Bon Jovi concert or an Air Supply concert, or you find us in the Grand Canyon. Listen, Richards, this is a channel about our life, okay? We started it out as a homesteading thing, corns and beans and green beans and whatever, but we put what we want to on here. That's our right. It's our channel. Go forth, consume a satchel full of Richards, and as far as the dislike button goes, try turning it off and then turning it back on. But for those of you who are positive, who want to see the underdog make it and achieve and not feel ashamed of themselves for being able to pay their bills and buy food for their families when they do, let's help this couple. Let's help this couple get there. Hollaby Homestead, okay? I'm going to put a direct link to their channel, as well as Teresa's, in the description box of this video, where you can also go and buy my books. And don't forget, if you can't afford a book, feel free to give us a super chat in the amount you can afford. And if not, it doesn't matter. Just keep coming back and keep watching. You're our most important person anyway. See you for more next time. Wonderful, supportive viewers and assholes alike.